Hi everyone, how's it going? We're back with another agent video today. We've got two bona fide FM Wonderkids who have been left to rot really by the clubs they're at. Really underutilized, just completely underappreciated. So we are going to try and find these two players who I'm sure you will agree deserve so much better a new home. And everyone, with these videos, as you know, it's not just about finding them somewhere where they can play football. It's about trying to find them a successful move where they can really showcase their talent, potentially reignite their careers and earn themselves a move back to an elite club if we can't get them into one straight away. But ultimately, we're looking really for success. What I judge success in is not the amount of money they're going to make. So we're not talking about moves to Saudi. We're talking playing time, trophies, international honours, really the ones we're going to look at. So yeah, let's see the two players we've picked for today's video. Now, the player we've picked, I'm sure you will all agree, is an absolute superstar, normally speaking. But it does seem to be a trend from speaking to other people on this FM. He does seem to get underused by Real Madrid once he moves there, and that is none other than our man Endrick. So we are currently unemployed. Basically, this sim came from our Iceland save, which you can find the videos for on the channel. Yeah, we just noticed that in 8 years, he'd made 11 appearances in the league. Obviously, that doesn't include all comps, but 11 appearances in the league for this guy is criminal. Because we are unemployed and we haven't got any scouts, we don't have all the scouting info. We don't have every single little bit of his technical attributes, but you can get the idea. He's brilliant. And he's listed for, I think it's 20 mil, 100k wages. So what's going to happen is we've actually already identified a club for him, but I'll sort of talk you through the process that we went through for that one. Yeah, we're going to move him there. Basically, what's going to happen is we will take control of the club we're going to move him to, make the bid, facilitate the transfer, what have you, agree a contract. Then we'll reload and then just use the editor to move him to that club and try and mimic the contract as best as possible, just to avoid any disruption to the manager and the squad through us sort of, adding and removing managers and stuff. Now, in Endrick's case, the task was actually made a little bit easier because we had a number of clubs who were interested in him. One of them was a club we already had in mind. And when we looked at their squad, it seemed like a match made in heaven, really. But we'll show you some of the other clubs that we did debate moving him to. But yeah, I think you'll agree that the one we settled on is probably the best option. Now, we did look at a club, which was at the end of a path quite well trodden by Real Madrid strikers, really. Thinking of the likes of Alvaro Morata, and that was Atletico de Madrid, still with Diego Simeone in charge. But aside from the fact that we can't actually see what their transfer budget is, he just would struggle to get into their team over Ribeiro and Felice. Obviously, Felice is he's 32 now, but he's currently wanted. But I can't see Endrick getting in over either of those two players. If Felice leaves, they've got Jonathan Alvarez, who looks decent. We've got Karim Konate. I just feel like it's just going to be a bit of a stretch. It's going to be a bit of an ask for him to force his way into that team. And obviously, we don't even know if they could afford it. And then we thought, well, have Spurs really replaced Harry Kane since he left with, an elite striker? They've obviously done quite well because they've won 2 Premier Leagues under Big Ange by the looks of things. When did they do that? Premier League. Oh, okay, no. That's when it was the old First Division. Ignore that one. Have they still not won a single trophy? Doesn't look like they've won a single trophy still. But yeah, they could afford him. They could afford his 20 million and in transfer fee, and they could afford potentially 100 mil salary. But they do have a really good looking striker in Pauli Paulsen. And I just feel like, again, it might be a little bit too much of a gamble to move him somewhere where he's going to have direct competition. But now we move on to one of the clubs who was actually interested in buying him, according to this to the simulation. And that was Wolfsburg. Now, if you've not watched the last agent video, feel free to go and do so. We got burnt by Wolfsburg last time. We moved Cole Palmer there thinking he would slot right in, be ideal. Didn't work out. Wolfsburg could afford Hendrick, don't get me wrong, but I'm a little bit remiss to take a gamble on moving him there after what happened with Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer looked like he would be a dead cert just to slot into that team. They have got Jonas Vind, who looks like he is on his way out in terms of he's unhappy. I'm assuming he wants to. Oh, he's unhappy at the sale of a player. He's obviously on the decline, but I don't know. I'm just a little bit burnt by Wolfsburg, and I don't want to take the chance of moving Hendrick there and it not work out again. But sticking in Germany, and another club who was interested in Hendrick is Borussia Dortmund, still under Edin Terzic. And yeah, they again would have no issues paying his wages, no issues paying his transfer fee. And most importantly, they are currently without a striker. There's no Yusufa Moukoko. He is at Barcelona. They are a squad, obviously very much in a rebuilding process, but they don't have a striker ready to just slot into the 11. They got Pienko, but he seems to be being used more as a midfielder. And yeah, I think Dortmund is easily the best option for Hendrick. So now what we do as manager of Dortmund is we go in, we might as well just see what he'd want. 91 to 150k per week, 115, no issue at all for us. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make this transfer happen, get it confirmed with the terms of the contract, and then we'll reload and move him there with the editor. The only issue that has become apparent is they are actually trying to negotiate the signing of George Eleni Kenner, who looks potentially on par with Hendrick in terms of technical ability, but we made our decision. We're gonna push ahead and see what happens. So we managed to get him to agree his contract. The deal is done, everyone. Hendrick will be a Dortmund player. There we go. We have moved Hendrick over to Dortmund, and we've replicated the contract as best as we can. The only thing we couldn't quite achieve was like the winning the Conference League, winning the Europa League, and winning the Pokal bonuses, and the loyalty bonuses can sometimes be a little bit difficult to factor in. But we've moved him over. We've put everything in as best as we can. So basically, what's going to happen now is we're going to sim 5 years into the future and see where he's at, and hopefully he can establish himself at Dortmund, despite the fact that they are trying to sign someone else to play in that role as well. And now, everyone, it's time to look at player 2. Now, this one's going to be a little bit more of a challenge because as it stands, he's not actually transfer listed by the club he's at. But I'd be amazed if he doesn't end up being transfer listed this summer, if not the following summer. But we're going to try and preempt that and get him out of this hellhole that he is in. And player 2 is none other than, arguably, I think, if not one of everyone's top 3, top 5 favourite Wonderkids, Rooney Bardghji. He's at PSG. As you can see, in 8 years, he's played 48 league games or made 48 league appearances. He had a loan out to Troyes at some point. I think, the same season, or no, the year after he signed for them, maybe. And it's really just not worked out for him there. But before we start taking a look at some of the clubs, you want to do us a massive favour. Drop a like down below and leave a comment who you want to see on the next agent video. Yeah, we will be grading these at the end like we did with the last one. But yeah, let's see if we can find him a club. And one club we did look at, Newcastle. They've got the money. Bardghji is sort of valued 20 to 60 mil. Obviously, because he's not currently transfer listed, we don't actually know what we're dealing with here money-wise, but wage budget-wise, clubs like Newcastle, you would think wouldn't have an issue. Transfer budget-wise, they don't have a problem at all, but they're currently negative in their wage budget. Now, theoretically, we could move some of their transfer budget around. But I'm just a little bit remiss to do so if there's going to be concerns over their potential wage structure. Even if, tactically, can they fit him in? He's probably going to be better than Johan Bakayoko. I just feel like there's too much risk. Now, moving back over to Germany, we looked at another club in Bayer Leverkusen, still with Xabi Alonso. They could probably just about get the money together to pay for him. They could definitely afford his wages. Tactically wise, that's where it potentially becomes a bit of an issue because they don't play wingers. And obviously, we're going to be looking to have Bardghji playing out on this right flank. Now, after in the last video, Cole Palmer moved to Monaco with the AI agent. And he actually had some decent success winning a couple of trophies there under manager Unai Emery, who we obviously came across last time out as well, if you've seen that video. But transfer-wise, like fees and stuff, they could definitely afford him. They'll say Emery likes a 4-3-3, but he's currently listed as currently using a 4-4-2. He could potentially play on that right flank, but I don't feel like it's going to potentially get the most out of him. In terms of, position-wise, he would arguably be one of their stronger wingers. He'd probably be competing with Carlos Gomez. Again, it was just another one where I just felt like there's potentially a little bit too much jeopardy here. But then we remembered, we'd looked at Spurs for Endrick. And we know they can afford Endrick. We thought, well, can they afford Bardghji? And if so, would they be able to play him? They're currently playing Joseph Bafor, who's a striker, out on the right. So I'm thinking, surely. Perfect for Bardghji to come in there. Because they're currently selling their only other real listed out-and-out right winger in Solomon Salifu. And who else have they got? They've got Manor Solomon. They've got Shea Lacey in on loan, whoever he is. But I think Spurs really is the option here for Bardghji. He should certainly be able to dislodge Bafor on the right. There's no way if they've got Bardghji, they're going to play a striker out on that right flank. So with that in mind, let's get him in. We actually have a slight complicating factor with Bardghji. Transfer-wise, we could probably get it done. But he's not considering any changes in his career until after the Euros. So we're going to have to skip ahead to get that boxed off and out the way. So we've got PSG to agree to a deal of 40.5 million up front with 5 million after 50 games. So it's a heck of a chunk. Spurs, as we said, can definitely afford him, but it is still quite a big chunk of cash. But a big hurdle, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board because Bardghji is looking to play in the Champions League and obviously Spurs are not in a position to offer him that. So that has then led us to look further afield and we've potentially settled on a new option here in Real Sociedad. Currently, their main right winger is Anthony Gordon, 31 years of age, and there's no way you're telling me that Rudy Bardghji can displace Anthony Gordon. And then when we look at Sociedad, money-wise, not an issue. They can definitely afford his wages. They can definitely afford to pay him, and they are, most importantly, everyone, playing in the Champions League this season after they came fourth last year. So let's see if we can get Bardghji to join Sociedad. So we managed to get PSG to agree to the sale of Bardghji to Sociedad. We did manage to speak to his agent. He would be keen on the move. Transfer fee and contract salary and everything should be absolutely fine. So the Bardghji deal, contract agreed. It's going to go through. Obviously, we have to put a release clause in because we are in Spain. So now what we're going to do is get him moved into Sociedad so that him and Endrick are at their clubs and then let's get things moving. So Bardghji is all moved in, contract done, replicated as usual, as best as possible. So now it's time to see how he is getting on alongside Endrick in 5 years. Well, everyone, it's been 5 years. The summer window of 2037 is open. And let's see how our clients Endrick and Rooney Bardghji have been getting on at their respective clubs. And first up, it is Endrick, who we moved to Dortmund. Now, we were worried that obviously his move was going to be complicated by the arrival of, what was his name? Silgaina, who looked like they were coming in from Udinese. Now, I have been keeping an eye on things, and they've actually changed manager a couple of times. So we've got Jakub Nejstrup in at the moment. They did actually have Michael Carrick for a time after Edin Terzic. That's it. Sorry, Elena Kane came in from Udinese. He is currently wanted by Köln or Al Ittihad. We find Endrick, who currently is not wanted. We moved him here. Again, mostly sub appearances. He did definitely get more game time than he was getting at Madrid. Obviously, you can see his overall league appearances are a lot higher. But his goals and his average match rating hasn't been great because he's just, again, been making lots of sub appearances. This season, he really didn't play much at all. The season just gone. So I must admit, I had half expected him to potentially get transfer listed. Now, he may well do. I'm not particularly in a rush to sort of push the sale. I think if the sort of rival for his position leaves, I can't remember his name again, Ilkiena. Elena Kenner, if he leaves, then that opens up the slot for Endrick to go in. I'm not necessarily going to rush to sort of move him on, This guy has done well since he's been in. He has unfortunately very much been the main striker. He's made less appearances overall, but he's made more starts basically. Yeah, a bit disappointing that. I mean, the concern we had was that would happen, but it's a bit frustrating that it has sort of really impacted on Endrick's game time. I would have thought that Endrick would be at sort of like a similar level to potentially displace him, but just hasn't really worked out that way. But I do think there is still time for him to, he's 30 now. He's got a year left on his deal. I think there is time for him to really try and do something here at Dortmund. I don't see any reason why he can't force his way into that team and really sort of push on. He's not won anything yet with the club, which is real shame. But I mean, as you can see, in 8 years, he made 11 appearances for Real Madrid. He's made 109 for Dortmund in 5 seasons. So, I'm not too disheartened yet. I think he definitely could be doing more, but I'm not too concerned at this point in time about trying to necessarily find him another move, because I think if what's his name, Ilekena leaves, then it should free up the slot for Endrick. Now, as for Rooney Bardghji, it's safe to say that the move to Sociedad has worked wonders for him. When you look, 34 starts this season in the league, 8 goals, 3 assists. He's got 2 years left on his deal. They gave him a new contract. They gave him a pay rise. Not for sale. Like I said, we've been keeping an eye on these. He won the Conference League. He won the Copa del Rey in his last season. And in terms of what he's actually done, so we moved him here. He sort of made a smattering of starts in the second season. We checked it's because he had a long-term injury, but he's pretty much been a mainstay in the team ever since. And yeah, obviously he's got those 2 trophies under his belt. In terms of international appearances, 78 caps, 14 goals for the Swedish national team. This move to Sociedad has worked out an absolute dream for him. He's 31. He's got 2 years left on his deal, so I'm not going to upset the apple cart here. We're literally just going to leave him. He's either going to potentially get picked up at some point, or he might leave on a free at the age of 33 and make one last move. Might go back to Sweden, who knows. But really, really happy with how Bardghji's done. So everyone, all that's left for us to do is to sim 5 years into the future or sooner if they retire sooner. I'm not going to interfere like we did with the Cole Palmer one, where when he was transfer listed by Wolfsburg, we moved him to Genk. I'm not going to worry about that at this stage. I think Bardghji, we can just leave. That move has worked out fantastically well for him. That has really, really worked. It's really nice to see the success of that one. He literally hit the ground running at Sociedad, and aside from that one season where he had a long-term injury, he's just flowing. And obviously, 2 trophies in that last season has been brilliant. Endrick, he should be able to force his way into that team. It's obviously just a manager preference. I think when they signed the other guy who despite checking 4 or 5 times, I still can't remember the exact pronunciation of his name. But if he leaves, he's wanted by Saudi and he's wanted by Köln, then that frees up the slot for Endrick. Or it may be that a club comes in for Endrick, the Dortmund hierarchy sort of go, you know what, do you want to go? And he might make that move, but we'll leave that up to him, really. He's not currently transfer listed. I think there's still scope for him to force his way in, so I'm not going to risk making a move which may backfire. Everyone, it is time for Endrick to retire. So let's see what he's achieved. So everyone, he joined us in 2041, and at the age of 34, Endrick is hanging up his boots. So I don't even necessarily think is that 5 years? I don't even think that's 5 years since I last saw you. I think it's 4. And you'll see he has moved around a little bit. So we've got a little bit of a caveat here. So obviously we said we weren't going to interfere, and we didn't interfere in that summer when I saw you. But the following season, he was transfer listed, because basically what I did was I just then simmed a year at a time, because I didn't want to get caught out by any sort of potential early retirement. So I literally just simmed like a season at a time. Basically found out at the end of the 37-38 season that Dortmund had transfer listed Endrick. So I thought, you know what, we're going to keep it realistic. I'm acting as an agent. Let's sort these moves out. So we looked for 2 striker teams. So we looked to a number of sides. The one we settled on in the end was Roma. They played a 4-4-2 diamond. Basically I was thinking Endrick can go in and be like a backup striker. And you should have some opportunities to play because they're playing 2 strikers. The system should suit that. And also, the other thing that I thought was a bit of a problem was he still wanted to play continental football. He still wanted to play in the Champions League, and Roma were the only team in the Champions League that I thought were both A, in a position to make a move, and B, he had the potential to get something out of it. It didn't really work out a huge amount for him when we look at his stats when he was at Roma. So yeah, still went for big money, but he only made 16 league appearances and scored 4 goals. Most of those appearances were off the bench. And then at the end of that season, he found himself transfer listed again. And this time again, we looked through and we settled on Köln under the management of Andy Robertson, playing a 4-4-2, 3.5 mil. Again, he was still adamant he wanted Champions League football. Thankfully, Köln had come 5th, and with the coefficients, that meant that they got into the Champions League. Because I looked at clubs like Malaga, newly promoted Malaga in Spain, and there was someone else as well I looked at who I thought this could be a good little move from someone where he's hopefully going to be guaranteed game time, can contribute a lot, but he didn't want to do it because they weren't playing in the Champions League. Lo and behold, he makes 6 sub appearances for Köln, doesn't score a goal competitively, and finds himself transfer listed again. Crystal Palace had just come 13th in the league, but were playing in the Europa League because they'd won the FA Cup. So I thought, okay, you know what? They were playing 2 strikers. They only really had 2 main strikers. The other ones on their sort of books they were looking to loan out. So I thought he can come in and just be a squad rotation player. He made 2 league appearances. So really frustrating that his career sort of petered out in the end. He didn't really win anything since we moved him on, apart from the Italian under-20s. Went to Dortmund, went to Roma, went to Köln, went to Palace, didn't win anything, unfortunately. So I would say that while he certainly got the game time, sort of at Dortmund, most of it was still sub appearances, and as you can see, he didn't break a 7 match rating average for the season, apart from in the second to last season. Third to last season where he got a 6.99, but again, all bench appearances. So it'll be interesting to see if the FM agent did a better job than either with Endrick. But first, we need to catch up with how Rudy Bardghji is doing. So barely a year later, and we find Bardghji retiring at Al Khalij in Saudi Arabia after he had an absolutely immense spell at Sociedad. So as I said, I had been keeping an eye on these because, again, I wanted to avoid any sort of sneaky retirements. He retires at the age of 36 after made 103 appearances for the Swedish national team. And to be fair, looking at him, he could still probably do a job, but he's obviously decided he wants to hang up his boots. He's had a good season out in Saudi Arabia with 14 goals and 12 assists in 34 appearances. But he actually left Sociedad on a free and went there and had another great season at Khalij in his first season. As you can see, look at that average match rating. I mean, his average match ratings have generally been amazing. Look at that. Once we moved him to Sociedad, never went below a 7. Absolutely brilliant career, and then literally just at the end he just sort of really struggled to get the game time, but he was still competing well for the club and still delivering. He did win a second Copa del Rey, and I think actually when I looked, I feel like he actually they came runners up as well. So he Supercopa de España runners up as well. They did well. Once he went to Sociedad, he achieved well. He competed well for the club, and as we saw, he put up really, really good numbers. When you have to look, his league goals, 63 league goals and 221 appearances, and a lot of those were starts too. So he did really, really well for Sociedad, and I think he can be really, really proud. The issue we've got is we can't get the data on Al Khalij fully. We can't get the league data, so we don't know at all how they have been doing as a club. And what he's achieved there. Unfortunately, we just cannot get that data. But I would definitely say the Sociedad move has worked out really, really nicely. So I think it's fair to say that while the Endrick move didn't really work out the way we hoped it would, and sort of thinking in hindsight, should I have used the editor to sort of cancel the move of the striker who was joining the same year we moved Endrick to Dortmund? Because obviously they were signing him because we knew they needed a striker. That's why we wanted to put Endrick there. But obviously they'd already made the move to fill that gap, and in doing so, we kind of probably kiboshed Endrick's sort of pathway into the team. Whereas maybe we should have gone, well, you're looking for a striker. You can see you tried to sign one. Here, have your striker, and jib off that guy. And who knows, it might have been a different story. But I was sort of worried that could have been a bit of a slippery slope into interfering too much. But maybe in hindsight we would look to do something like that, or maybe just make the move sooner. But as for Bardghji, the move to Sociedad really worked out for him, and it gave him a platform then to sort of leave, go on to Alcalige as and when he felt he was ready, after obviously feeling like he'd achieved everything he could at Sociedad, recognised that maybe his time there at the club was on the way out, and went on to consistently perform at Alcalige and did really, really well. So now it's time to see how the FM agents have done. So what's this? 2 years earlier than he retired when we were his agent, we find Baldaggi at Juventus. The reason we've gone with Baldaggi first is because he's the one who's retiring first. He's at Juve, and his contract's due to expire, and we literally join him. What's that? He's retiring, in July. So I'm guessing it's because he's finishing his international duty with Sweden. What they must be playing in the 2040, what's that going to be? Euros maybe, or the World Cup. Let's see if we can. He's got a similar number of caps for Sweden, by the way. And interestingly enough, let's have a look at his clubs, because it looks like so he stayed at PSG for another year and then went to Spurs, the club we tried to move him to, but he wouldn't go because they weren't in the Champions League. Spent some time in Spurs. In the UK with Spurs, does okay appearance-wise, doesn't sort of put up the same level of numbers, goes to Juve and makes a fair number of appearances, and then this last season, nowhere near as much in terms of trophies that he's won. Came runners up in the FA Cup, that was it. Interesting. We'll see if we can see what Sweden are doing. What are they competing in? So it's the Euros Group E. So it was the Euros. Okay. Well, we might as well see how he gets on with them, mightn't we? And the curtain comes down on Baldaggi's career as they lost 3-2 in the second round of the Euros to Turkey. He did play, but he wasn't able to influence the game to get Sweden the win to progress them through to the next round. And this is where his career ends. I do find it a little bit funny though. We tried to send him to Spurs and he'd said no, and then a year later he was there anyway. Obviously with us, the move to Sociedad worked out so much better for him than what happened here. So he got a couple of trophies, we do join him in his retirement here at the age of 34. So 2 years earlier than he retired when we were his agents. So let's see how Hendrik's getting on. So it's 2041 and Hendrik is retiring. Now this is the same year that he retired when we were his agent, so a little bit of consistency there. But as you can see, we've made a few slightly different moves. So Aston Villa was a club that we did actually look at for him before we decided on Dortmund. And it looks like he did move that same season. So he went to Aston Villa, 6 goals in 19 league starts. And then the following season, all sub appearances. Again, mostly sub appearances before going to Vigo. Again, mostly sub appearances. Got loaned out to Shakhtar, and then he went to Brescia on a free. And I look at this Brescia move, so they had just been promoted to the Serie A, but he unfortunately wasn't able to help them stay up, and they're going back down, but he is retiring anyway. The move to Aston Villa, again, in terms of performances, match ratings, and overall sort of statistics, didn't really work out. But I think when I looked, he did win a Conference League, and he came runners up in the Carabao. So, he did actually get a trophy out of this move. So I suppose in that regard, maybe the AI agent gets the win on us for Hendrik, just because he did actually win a trophy. He probably maybe played slightly more for Dortmund than he did for Real Madrid, for Aston Villa. But I don't know, in terms of sort of overall match stats and numbers and stuff, I think there's nothing really significant in it. But I think the thing that does swing it is that Conference League win. Interestingly enough to note as well, he didn't get any caps for the Brazilian national team either, which is a bit of a shame. Someone like him should easily have been able to have got some sort of game time, but he obviously just was never at a club where he could really sort of showcase his ability and prove his worth in that regard. So personally for me, I think this video is a bit more of a draw. I think the agent won the Hendrik one, and we won the Baldaggi one, but let me know what you guys think. I've got another agent video in the works, but it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to basically simulate a manager's career, just like we did with the Ronaldo and Messi one. We're just going to focus on the one manager for this. So we found a retired legend in-game, and we're going to try and simulate his manager career by acting as his agent, advising him on moves to make and things like that. And yeah, he's got in-game, he's got like a potential of about 172. So which is pretty good, pretty elite level potentially. So someone who should definitely be able to get in a position where they can really compete for trophies with whichever club they're at. So that's going to be a fun challenge. I do enjoy doing them, and I do enjoy doing these. So I hope you have enjoyed it. Be interesting to see with the new update as well, the winter update. All these videos, the agent videos I've done recently have been from the last sort of database that we had. I've been working on them since before the winter update. So it'll be interesting to see what some of these Wonderkids whose careers we have found sort of slightly going astray, what they will be like in the update. So what I'll probably do at some point is I'll sim sort of 5-6 years into the future on a brand new save and see who is where. And see if we can conjure up some more agent moves. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I am aware that last one was a little bit long. I'm trying to keep this one a little bit shorter. So as you always know, I do tend to waffle a lot, so I'm trying to keep it condensed. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will see you all very, very soon. Bye for now.